So an update with like how this fucking whole thing went sideways and stuff too, right? Because I'm still mad at Jim. Haven't talked to him ever. Mainly because when we got into this head switching thing, it turned out he was really fucked. Because what happened was, so he comes, he's supposed to be like, I'm like, okay, like I'm in this situation and whatever else. He fucking shows up as a ghost. Obviously, then like, so I'm like, okay, this is great, like, you know, oh wow, this is like happiness. No, none of that was happiness. Actually, if it occurred to me, I've been through ghost hell in the past year, and he's responsible. But then this is where it gets a little bit fucked up because of this kind of whole situation, and it seems that he had a way of twisting things around, obviously, too, and putting blame back on all of you guys, because it seems he was talking behind your back and he didn't like so it went a bit sideways, and he did throw you guys under the bus. I have to admit that. So let me explain how he did that to you, because right now you guys are all on a shit list, because he's like, I have to get back on a better list, so I'm fucking throwing these guys under the bus. So it's been a little bit of a mess. So then I was mad at everybody else, because I'm like, well, how does this actually tie in, and how does that make sense, right? So he's like trying to be so Mr. Savior, and I'm going to save you and be all great and whatever else. But and then it turns out that I'm mad at him because, you know, of all the cheating, the lying, the gambling, the criminal activity, obviously the switching over to gay, like it's been a lot, the mind fuck. So he says, no, that wasn't me, right? Those were different variants in different timelines. He tries to explain this thing in like multiple universes and timelines and try to put in some alien shit like a fucking psycho. I'm like, I don't know, but let's just hear him out for a second. Chloe, stop it. Hey. So, said, okay, fine, I'll hear your explanation. He says, no. That's not me at all, right? Look, when it came to the mental, like the head fucking and everything else, I was actually with the mad scientist when I was like doing the head switching, and that was kind of more like that Riddler character when he had the head stuff. He's like, that actually was Jordan's fault, right? So he's like, I'm going to put, like, he was the one doing that, and he was the one messing everybody up that way, so you can't trust him, right? So don't trust him. And then I'm like, okay, so he threw you right under the bus, Jordan. And then Joel, right, how he fucking throw you under the bus, because I said about the robot thing, and I'm like, well, you fell in love with this robot twin, and that's why you left me, and like, you're such an asshole and all the control. He's like, no, that wasn't me, that was actually fucking Joel, right? It's like, he is the robot manipulator, and he's doing a bunch of bullshit there, right? So I was like, oh, so Jim's saying you're an asshole, so threw you right under the fucking bus. And then with the crime stuff, because I was like, dude, like with losing all the money and the gambling, and then out doing, you know, with the guns and fucking into the drugs and the, you know, obviously all the like you know, the organized crime too and everything like that. He fucking throws Charlie under the bus. He says, no, that wasn't me, that was Charlie, he's an asshole. So Jim says you're an asshole, he doesn't even fucking like you, right? So he threw you under the bus and says you have to go to jail. So that's pretty fucked. And then when it comes to obviously, like, with the devil and the demon thing, he's like, no, that wasn't me. I would never do that, right? I'm fucking Jesus. Why would I be the devil? That doesn't make sense. Like, I could never do something like that and be manipulative, and the cheating and all that with, like, the swinging stuff, right? Because of the Latino stuff and liking that. He's like, I'm not, like, no, I wouldn't fucking do that to you at all. That's fucking Alex's fault. Like, he's an asshole, right? So that's him. Then that ties back into, okay, well, the monsters, right? And Dracula's actually like the devil's son, so that ties back around there, which kind of goes back into like how that switches into, like, you know, if you've ever seen the movie Constantine, like when you can see all the different worlds and everything kind of around, and the monsters, and that attachment kind of goes to the dragons. It's a whole big thing. And anyways, he fucking threw Luke right under the bus on that one. He said, you know, he's an asshole, don't fucking trust a word he says, right? So they're like, okay. And then this, right, aliens and all that fucking whacked up, you know, comics and into that whack jazz and all of that. You know, and again, the multiple universes that he's trying to blame. He's like, that's fucking Henry's fault. Like, that guy's an asshole, right? And switching, he's actually really wanting to be Wonder Woman in his fantasies, which ties really kind of back into the fact that Jim actually made these guys his husband, like, this is like his fantasy pool with the husband, because I said, actually, that seems like a gay world of people you want, right? So it's kind of like when you go into the schoolyard and then you're like, you pick on the ones you like and you want. And then I said, well, whose head is that really, though? Because I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. Like, you guys, I'm like, I don't know, like, if I trust any of these Hollywood people, because they're always constantly lying to me, right? So it's like, it kind of comes back around. I said, okay, well, that makes more sense because he's been in my head. So that switches over, right? So I'm like, okay, well, that's why they had to take that as a couple. I'm like, is that your polygamy? Like, they're into their own stuff with the switchy. So if they're married into the switchy, maybe they brought him around, and that's what that tied back into. And then they're all really into their gay cult. That actually made more sense to me. I was like, I get it now. I get it. So that's their world. We really were never a part of it. They just been fucking lying to us all the time. Because she told me the secrets and said, yeah, that's actually what's really been happening, because like I told you, she was into the man thing. So she's like, I wouldn't trust these fuckers. But this is where then it gets extra complicated, right? Because I'm like, well, he still says that I'm supposed to trust him. Never talked to him before. But he's like, no. He's like, you're not understanding. He's like, really? If that's the case, then these guys would actually end up, then that can shift around. Maybe if that's where I'm your father and then you're with these guys. Or then they become the father. So I was like, what? That doesn't even make sense. They're like, no, it can't make sense. That's why we have to have actually multiple wives to switch over, because otherwise it's not going to work, right? So with the wives thing, she's like, okay, well, Jim's lying, so somebody's got to fucking, like, step it up and actually, like, set this right. So, Chloe, hey, stop it. Can't really do a video with the dog licking the pipe. Chloe! But with the get comfortable on camera, you just work your way through it and turn it into something else. Stop it. So Sophia says, fine, I'll fucking save him because I'll have to fucking fix something else there. And I remember I told you the women thing goes into a whole different universe, because I said, you guys, that's where there's that one movie I think Tom was in, and then the guys, because they can't read the women's heads, they put them out, right? Because that's really that's where that core gay club issue came from, the fact that you guys couldn't read our minds and then just went mental, right? Because you guys are the mental cases. Which actually roots back to, she's like, okay, well, I'll prove that science. I'll be the mad scientist there. Not a problem, right? Because you guys don't know what the fuck's going on. Which actually leads to then, oh, wait, sorry, moved the wrong name. That goes there. Technically can kind of go into that situation. We'll explain that in a second, because that's more that she's doing more of the science. Because she's doing the robots, which obviously relates back to the social media and the phone thing to connect into that line. Because this is just a fucking robot that we've been talking to and programmed. So somebody's actually got to know what the fuck's going on, because I don't think fucking Zuckerberg has any idea. Again, because of the women with the head stuff going on, he can't fucking keep up. So then that goes back in, obviously. Where's we going? Because, well, we had to tie back in, well, the aliens, so that's aliens, and I said to the different universes, which ties back in, because the core thing of going into, that's why, the Africa thing, that's why the importance of Black Lives Matter, which represents obviously the minorities, and then how that works, and then that ties back into the different universes. Because why do the Black Panther stuff, right? Because did you fucking pay attention to that? Were you guys even paying attention? I don't think so. So that's what that ties back into. So she says, I guess I better fucking fix that situation with those idiots. So she will. And then she says, well, I always knew I was a vampire, obviously, and Jim's fucked, so I'll take that over, because somebody's got to fucking save Luke from all of his lies, because he's a mental case. So we have to tie that back in and save him. And jail, like, remember, have you ever seen The Cell with all the different types of things? And then the devil puts that on, whatever. Well, obviously Jim's played the devil, and then he tried to make it see her, and she's like, yeah, but I can play the devil better, because why? Because I can. So I'll save Alex over here, right? Because that's kind of, setting things right. And then because we have to, tie in obviously with this whole transgender in the gay world and all of that stuff, male to female, and that everybody has to understand that they're both. So if you don't understand you're both, you're absolutely not in the club. Well, we could explain that. Obviously she can. And then that ties back in because of, the cultures and different things. Remember, and these are just lines, because then you have to take this, and then that represents a whole different thing. Like when I get into it, and then... But that's a whole lot more explanations. I feel like this is, again, like I'm having to do everybody's job, which is really frustrating. But just blame him for everything, because he's, at the end of the day, what's happened was, because I'm mad at him 24/7. 24/7 mad at him, right? So shows up as a ghost. We get married. He's a lying, cheating whore, right? I find out about all of that, so I'm pissed. Turns out he's got a bunch of husbands, which ended up having to be saved. So I said, fuck that, I'll have a bunch of wives, so then they'll save me, they'll save these guys too. But then it gets really fucked up, because when you go into the different timelines, then they become my mothers. So that's a whole different fucking thing. Turns out that I'm attracted to really controlling women.